Hi, Gina here with Peace, Love, and Homeschool, and today I'm back with another Reading Between the Lines. This collaboration is hosted by the group YouTube Collaborators, and it is organized by Ingrid from Mommy and Mia Homeschool Chronicles. So as a group, we selected certain books to read throughout the year, and we answer a few questions once we're done reading them. Here's a playlist listed above if you'd like to see the books we've read and what we have to say about them. I will also link all the information below in the description box. The link for Mommy and Mia Homeschool Chronicles will also be listed down below, and if you are a bookworm, you will enjoy her channel. You need to go check her out. So the book that we've been reading for the past few weeks is called The Read-Aloud Family, Making Meaningful and Lasting Connections with Your Kids by Sarah Mackenzie. Basically, it is a book about books, or a book about reading books. In this book, Sarah Mackenzie shares a lot of research about how important it is to read to your children, starting from a very early age, and how that helps them academically. She also shares how reading aloud can create strong bonds with your children. In this book, she gives so many suggestions and gives you a little tidbit about each book. She also helps with examples of questions that you can ask your children to promote discussion. When I signed up for this book club, I was coming off of years of not reading when I had been a former bookworm. I was trying to force myself into getting that love of reading back that I used to have. And what I decided is that if I bought the actual physical books, that I probably might not read them. So I bought audiobooks for all the books that we're reading this year, and boy, let me tell you, it's been a blessing and a mistake all in one. The audiobook for this particular book was read by Sarah Mackenzie herself, and I tell you this because it answers the first question of our book club here. What did you like best about this book? And what I like best about this book is the author's enthusiasm. Not only could you see it in the content, but you could also hear it in her voice as she read the book. So that was a pretty cool thing. At first, I kind of started off with this book, kind of not sure I needed to read this book because I do share this love of reading, or I once did, and I knew how important reading was to kids, and I've always read to my kids. So I kind of had a little bit of an attitude about this book in the beginning, thinking I didn't need it. Question number 2 is, what did you like least about this book? And what I liked least about this book had nothing to do with the content in the book. It had more to do that I chose the audiobook over the physical book. I just really felt like I needed the book before me to highlight and write in all my notes. Number 3 is share a favorite quote from this book, and why did this quote stand out? And I'm sorry I don't have the page numbers or which chapter they're in, but I remember the quotes. So their children, the first quote is this: their children may not remember the exact stories, plot lines, or characters of the books they shared during these times. Whether they remember the titles of the books they read together doesn't even really matter, but I am certain of one thing: they will never forget that their mama read to them. And that is my whole heart about this book and with my family, is promoting that closeness and making those memories with my kids. And I do have one more quote. By reading aloud with them, we help our kids understand that life will be difficult, perhaps more difficult than they can yet imagine, but that they, just like the heroes in the tales from their childhood, are capable of facing unimaginable hardships with heroic virtue. Story by story, they slowly realize that inside each of us dwells a hero. And that quote stood out to me because I never thought about books that way. So now it made me realize, all the more how important it is to read with your kids. Number 4, would you read another book by this author? Why or why not? Yes, definitely. I would read another book by this author because if she's this encouraging and passionate in this book. I can only imagine what her other books are like. And those are the kind of books I want to keep on my shelves, because this homeschool thing is a marathon, not a sprint. I feel like books by Sarah Mackenzie will be a valuable resource on my homeschool bookshelf. Number 5, what feeling did this book evoke for you? Well, this year, as I said, I've been trying to reclaim my love of reading, and this book just by leaps and bounds helped me do that. This book just helped me to double down on the fact that I need to make the time to read. Because I keep saying I don't have the time. Well, no, I'm not making the time. So that's, you know, it just helped me remember my love of books. And I mean, her passion when she's talking. Oh, if you get a chance to listen to her audiobook, you should. But you should also buy the actual book. But just her passion about telling you about these stories and how important they are. It's contagious. Number 6, would you recommend this book? Yes, and I recommend it highly. It is a must read, and it is a must for every homeschool mom's bookshelf. Every family actually, but definitely every homeschool mom's bookshelf. Number 7, what new things did you learn? We already knew the importance of reading to your children, but I learned the importance of continuing reading even when your children can read on their own, and especially when they're teens.
Reading rollicking tales and delightful fables, turning pages in brightly colored picture books, getting lost in tales of Stregonona, the little red hen, sheep in a jeep. But something changes as they grow. They learn to read on their own, so we assume they don't want us to read aloud to them anymore. Their reading assignments aren't the rollicking, delightful tales of their childhood, but school assignments instead. Calendars fill, to-do lists grow, and reading for pleasure becomes a thing of the past, a memory. We slowly but surely teach our kids that reading is something you do out of duty rather than for pleasure.
She shared research where continuing reading to your teens can help them academically on their tests for college. Somewhere along the line, we quit reading out loud. But he was, reading, and then occasionally his sister would read a book to him. So I just never thought about reading to him anymore. But what happened is we had a book called Redwall, and we were reading it about 5 years ago maybe. And somewhere along the line, we didn't finish the book. We were about halfway through and the book disappeared. We couldn't find it. I almost bought a new one, but it just slowly got forgotten over time. And one day, around the time we started reading this book, that book turned up, the Redwall book. And I asked him if he'd like me to read it to him, and he was kind of, teenage answer, maybe, sure, Mom, whatever. He was very... He didn't care either way. I convinced him to just let me read him a chapter a night. And at first he was a tiny bit resistant. And we read one night and maybe skipped a couple nights, and then read another night and skipped a night. And it was just pretty sporadic. But now it's been every night. And now he's prompting me to, let's read the next chapter, Mom. So we're spending about 20 minutes a night reading Redwall together, and we already have future books picked out we've talked about, so we're excited, and it looks like we're on track of reading together. My favorite part about our reading time is my son may be 14, but when we pull out that book, he just curls up right next to me, places his head on my shoulder or in my lap, and we just read together, and it's just a really nice time. And that just helps me, as a mom, knowing that I only have a few short years left with him. Of course, like that first quote I read that I liked, it'll be memories for him that Mom read in the books. Number 8 is, what questions do you still have? And I really have none. This was a very straightforward, very informative, well-researched book. Number 9 is, did the book change your opinion or perspective about anything? No, the book didn't really change my opinion or perspective about anything. I've always had a love of reading. I've always felt it was so important. So we were It was like she was preaching to the choir here. Do I feel different now than before I read it? Yes, I guess I do feel different now than before I read it, because I feel, when I think about reading books now, I feel like this urgent need to read and a sense of wonder about the books we're going to be reading in the future. So it has changed me in that way. And number 10 is, what surprised you most about the book? And this is going to be the same as my answer to question number 7, and that is how important it is to read to our teens. I guess I just never thought about it. You know, I was always an avid reader. My mom never read to me as a teenager, so it just seemed natural to just let him take the reins and read. So I'm glad I picked up on that point and that we're running with it, that he was, you know, that my son wasn't too reluctant, and he's actually now excited about our reading together. And when I talk about other books we're going to read together, he's excited with me. So that's a pretty cool thing for me. And one more thing I'd like to say about the book, because I'm not sure I said it earlier. The book list alone in this book, oh my goodness, it is a real treasure. I love how this author is very selective in the books that she reads to her kids, because we've always been that way. But she put everything into words of how I felt. I agreed with her a lot on why we should read certain books and not other books, and I guess that kind of makes me a bit of a book snob too. But she did also say that if books that are not really up to your standards are chosen by your children to read, and that gets them reading when they weren't really readers before, let them read it. But anyways, I thought that was important, that, you know, this is, as I was saying, it's a valuable resource for that book list alone. I think she listed 4 different levels of readers, and she listed about 20 books, I think, per level. And she told you a little bit about the books. I mean, I was wanting to read even some of the picture books, so I am excited to just go through this. Once I get my hands on this book, I'm excited to go through this list and highlight the books, you know, the ones I want to read. The audiobook did come with a downloadable list and a read-aloud calendar. I don't know if that's mentioned in the book, but just to kind of get into the habit, it's like a habit tracker. So you can check mark every day that you read together. I haven't printed that up yet, but I'm going to do that just to kind of keep us in the habit of reading and keep it at the forefront of our minds that this is very important. I think you get it that I loved the book, and I think you will too. Make sure and subscribe to our channel if you'd like to come back and hear the review on that book. And don't forget to ring the little bell so you'll be notified about it. And be sure to give us a thumbs up if you like this video today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Peace out.